I'd like to again thank Shiftin and Jocelyn for inviting me to speak to you once again. And this time, continuing a theme that I've been exploring at Shiftin's in the past, I want to share our vision at Sunex Malta of climate-friendly travel. I want to show you on this slide our starting point, which is reflected in the logo of Sunex Malta. We're a small European-based NGO which has been established with Maurice Strong, the father of sustainable development, the chairperson, Secretary General of the 1972 Stockholm Environment Summit, and then again 20 years later of the Rio Environment Summit, and my friend for the last 25 years of his life. Sunex Malta was established as a legacy to Maurice Strong and to try to continue his vision in the important travel and tourism sector. We were very fortunate in finding the attention and the support of the government of Malta, and this has allowed us to develop a concept of climate-friendly travel. And climate-friendly travel is simply one form of travel and tourism which is linked to Paris 1.5 degrees and to the Sustainable Development Goals, with a particular focus on SDG 13, which is climate action. And the reason for all of this is shown in this expression, a plan for our kids, because the existential climate crisis, the code red climate crisis, will be the dominant factor in the lives of our children and our grandchildren. And the more we can do to prepare for that, the better we will leave the world for them. In our vision, central to the concept of climate-friendly travel is the community. Every community is unique. Every community has its own culture, its own history, its own geography, its own place on the planet. And even two close by communities will have a very different reality when it comes to how they offer tourism and how tourism is interacted with the community itself. At the end of the day, travelers come and go, but the residents, they're always here. So in our mind, engaging with the community and all its stakeholders is the basic principle of climate-friendly travel. In terms of the structure, which you can see here, we envision a framework which is linked to our registry of climate-friendly travel services. It's a place where companies and communities can engage at no cost thanks to the government of Malta support, and they can learn about the principles of climate-friendly travel, and they can register and lay out their own sustainability action plan and their climate action plan. And of course, in doing that, it's very important that they include metrics of how they intend to achieve the targets in the Sustainable Development Goals. Yes, there are 17 goals, but there are 169 targets and 200 plus indicators. And again, every community has a different focus here. And most importantly, how they fit in as a community in the country's nationally declared contribution. That is the statement that the community makes as to how it will reduce its greenhouse gas emissions over the next 20 to 30 years in order to, as a global community, reach Paris 1.5 by 2050. And to remind you, the goals on this journey, because it is a journey, according to the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, are that we have to peak our emissions in 2025, that we have to pretty much reduce them by half by 2030, and that we have to have what everybody is calling net zero emissions by 2050, but which personally I believe it will become absolute zero over time. And this is the framework that every community is going to have to try to achieve. And in our registry, the guiding issue is transparency, not necessarily absolute superbly measured metrics. Because some players, big corporations, they will follow the science-based targets. They will hire consultants. They will be able to measure every aspect of their operations. Small and medium-sized companies, which make up the bulk of travel and tourism, will not be able to go to that detail, and frankly will not need to, because customers aren't exactly looking to see how that detail is. They're looking to see that a company and a community has a game plan. In the same way as if I go into a supermarket and I look for a bio product, I'm not asking what goes into making it a bio product. As a consumer, I'm satisfied that by seeing a label, that puts me into the right area of food or drink or whatever it is that I'm looking for. And here you can see our particular version of an eco badge, which we use at Sunex Malta, and which companies and communities who sign on to the registry will be able to use to show their visitors and their staff and their local community that they are a part of this growing climate-friendly movement. And that's also our philosophy in the registry. At the same time, we have put in place a support system, and it has two elements. The first one, and here we have a very common philosophy to Les Roches, is our strong climate champions, young graduate students who we put through a 2-year postgraduate diploma at ITS, the Institute of Tourism Studies in Malta. First year is a learning year. Second year is an internship year. And there we train them to become what we call strong climate champions, so that they can go back to their communities and help the community on this journey. And the second element that we've put in place are our SDG 17 partnerships. Very simple, one-page electronic handshakes with companies who can help and assist communities in order to move forward on the journey. We've built over 30 of these SDG 17 relationships in the past few years, and we've even created a small company, Climate Friendly Travel Services, to help communities find which of the particular services serve their needs in the best way. And there you have the framework. And our vision is, over time, we will put 100,000 strong climate champions in place over the next decade or so. And we will expand this thinking to communities around the world. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to talk to you about this. I hope we can work with Les Roches and your local community for you to become a leader in climate-friendly travel, and for you to work with us to spread the message, not just on social media, but through the young people that we are both training in order to be the drivers of this initiative. I repeat, and I make no apologies for repeating, the existential climate crisis will be the dominant feature in the world of tomorrow's leaders, the ones that are being trained here in Les Roches. And I'd like to close by referencing one element which I've been working on, which does not come through SunX Malta, but comes through the Sustainable Tourism Global Center in Saudi Arabia, where I am privileged to be an envoy. I've just come back from COP27, which incidentally is one of the world's largest tourism trade shows, 40,000 people going from pavilion to pavilion. And there we launched what we call the TPCC, the Tourism Panel on Climate Change. And this is inspired by the IPCC. We've collected more than 60 of the world's top climate scientists who've agreed to create the same overall metrics for travel and tourism as the IPCC has been creating for 20 years for the global community. And I wanted to mention this here today because next year we will be doing a stock take of all of the travel and tourism climate-related activity, and 1 year later, a science assessment of how the sector is performing against the Paris 1.5 framework. Again, we look forward to working with all of the academic institutions around the world, and very much look forward to working with Les Roches on this issue. Thank you for your attention.